I'm honoured to welcome you all here today for this special occasion. This evening's event marks the centrepiece of our celebration in Offaly of the centenary of the Offaly 1916 Rising. Offaly 100 is also our local response to Ireland's journey towards peace, reconciliation and equality over the past 100 years. The enormous sacrifices made by the women and men of 1916 ensured that the generations born from that moment onwards would live and work in a free and independent republic. As a child of 1916, my father grew up in an emerging republic where our language, our culture and our democracy were fostered and nurtured. 11 men are known to have fought in the Rising from Offaly. Seamus Kenny and Patrick MacDonald from Belmont. James Carroll from Shannon Harbour, Seamus O'Brennan from Tullamore, Patrick Doyle from Ferban, James Kelly from Muckla, Joseph Doolan from Killahy, Kieran Kenny from Banagher, Eamon Bulfin from Burr, Peter Backin from Tullamore, and Michael Foley from Edenderry. Together we remember their contribution to this Irish independence. We salute their fortitude, their idealism, their self-sacrifice. There are a number of family members here of those 1916 volunteers, including 5 sons and 2 daughters. I extend a warm welcome to you all, the descendants of the men who fought on Easter week, who are here tonight. Today marks the 100th anniversary of the Tullamore Incident, which has often been described as the prelude to the Easter Rebellion. We hope that this evening will be a memorable one. It is an opportunity to reflect on our heritage and to acknowledge the great distance that we have travelled following those momentous events 100 years ago.
You're all very welcome here this evening to celebrate the involvement of County Offaly in the events of the 1916 Rising. We honour the courage, dignity and the ideals of those people and the events of 1916. The Centenary programme itself is built on 7 strands, reflecting the themes of remembering, reconciling and celebrating. And this evening represents the headline event in the County Commemoration programme. A series of events will continue around the county over the next number of months. We've recently launched the Educational Resource Pack for schools, and the schools themselves celebrated their Proclamation Day last Tuesday around the county. In addition, Offaly County Council, in collaboration with Offaly Historical Society, is coordinating a memorabilia project of privately owned historical material from that period, and I want to acknowledge the invaluable support of Offaly Historical Society in assisting us with that programme. Many of you will have seen the Irish Volunteers exhibition in Kilroy's store on the High Street in the last couple of days. Further elements of that particular programme for the county: the commemorative garden will be opened here across in the town park just behind you towards the end of April this year, and that will include 7 trees representative of each of the 7 signatories of the proclamation. The Faithful Rising documentary film will be screened in April, representing the efforts of Eamon Bulfin and Peadar Bracken, 2 of the Offaly men who took part in the Rising. There are numerous other events being organised by various communities around the county, and I would encourage you to participate in those local events. I want to say a special word of thanks this evening to the local 2016 Commemoration Committee, which is chaired by Councillor Sinead Dooley, and to the County Coordinator Monica Cleary and her staff under the directorship of Frank Heslin. Thank you to all of them for their hard work in making this evening possible.
The Youth Council of Offaly, Cordan and Og, have selected 2 members to read the 1916 proclamation, so I invite Cathal Claffey and Tracy Murphy from Gallen School.
Irish men and Irish women, in the name of God and of the dead generations from which she receives her old tradition of nationhood, Ireland, through us, summons her children to her flag and strikes for her freedom. Having organised and trained her manhood through her secret revolutionary organisation, the Irish Republic Brotherhood, and through her open military organisations, the Irish Volunteers and the Irish Citizen Army. Having patiently perfected her discipline, having resolutely waited for the right moment to reveal itself, she now seizes that moment and, supported by her exiled children in America and by gallant allies in Europe, but relying in the first on her own strength, she strikes in full confidence of victory.
Jarvíid gur ceart ceannasach do clíte é ceart bhaintear na hÉireann ar dhiail sin na hÉireann, agus ar cumhad gan coist ar canún sin na hÉireann. Fur bháil an cuirt sin atá á himirt le fada ag pobal agus rialtas achtarnach. Níor bhuaigh sí an ceart sin, nóí féidir é a bhuaicú go brach ach le ddíthú muintear na hÉireann. Gach glúin dór tháinig, dhearbhí muintear na hÉireann a gheart ar iarse agus ar bhleathais náisiúnta. Sé thuaire le 300 bliain anuas a dhearbhí siad faoi arm é. Ag seasamh dúin ar an gheart bunaí sin agus á dhearbhú arís dúin faoi arm os cóir an saoil, fógraíomid leis seo poblacht na hÉireann ina stáit ceannasach neamhsplách. Agus cuirmid armío féin agus bio gambánach arm I neall lena saoirse, lena leas agus lena móra I measc na náisiún.
Willie Pearce. Now, he would have known both Patrick Pearce and Willie Pearce quite well because he had been a student in St. Enda's, and then while he was attending University College, he was living in St. Enda's, as were a dozen other members of the Rathfarnham company who accompanied him down to the GPO. And so when he arrived in the GPO, there was a bit of a skirmish outside when the Lancers charged, and they were exposed. They hadn't got into the GPO at that stage. When the Lancers were repelled, my father broke a window at the side, on Princess Street side of the GPO. They managed to hush people in through the window. They got into a box room and he had to shoot the lock off a door. But having arrived in anyway, Willie Pearce gave him a flag to raise over the GPO, and the Rathfarnham company was sent to the roof of the GPO at that stage. My father raised the green flag with the words Irish Republic on the Princess Street side, which is the side nearest the Liffey, and Willie Pearce was present while that flag was being unfurled. Well, my father was born in Argentina. My grandfather was raised in Dernlough, but he left at about the age of 20 to go to the Argentine, because they had connections in the Argentine. They knew people who had already gone out from Offaly and Westmeath. My father came back in 1902. He was sent to school in Newbridge, and then when St. Enda was founded, he was sent to St. Enda's School, Pearce's School. And then when he graduated, he went on to university, he still stayed in St. Enda's, and he was recruiting for the volunteers over that period. Now, all that time he was coming back and forward to his home in Offaly, to Dernlough, and he was involved with the volunteers down here, but he was really belonged to the Rathfarnham company at that time, and that's how he ended up with Pearce in the GPO. While he was in Argentina, he was put up for election for Offaly County Council, and he was elected, and the councillors elected him chairman. But as he wasn't present at the time, obviously being away in Argentina, they draped a tricolour flag over the chairman's chair, and that represented my father at that time. I wish I had known him better. I didn't know him that well, because I left home when I was 17 and went up to Dublin, and he was still back in Dernlough. He never talked about 1916. Like all those men, he never talked about 1916. A night like tonight is very much a vindication for all that he has done and all that he believed in. I think he would be a very old man if he were here today, but he'd be very proud.
Ladies and gentlemen, on this day 100 years ago, and at about this time of day, darkness was descending on a street packed with people who were filled with frustration at the ongoing war to which no end was in sight. Those gathered in the upper floor of the building behind us and their colleagues across the county of Offaly had made the choice to remain at home in the interest of achieving home rule in their own country. The two groups meeting here were indignant of each other's concerns. That no one was killed in the melee which followed is a wonder. We honoured the men and women of the volunteers in Commemoration on this, the 100th anniversary. Due to their combined efforts, all of us have the chance to serve our country in a way which was not possible on this evening 100 years ago. Thank you very much.
I invite Fionn Bracken and Colm Brennan to unveil the flagstones. They're direct descendants of Padder Bracken and Seamus O'Brennan. The newly inscribed flagstone reads, Colmkill Street, a prelude to the Easter Rising, site of the Tullamore Incident, 20th of March, 1916.
The story is a tension-filled situation in Tullamore, where an incident took place on the evening of the 20th of March 1916, whereby about 80 women and children mainly, but some adults, participated in a demonstration outside of the Sinn Féin Gaelic League rooms in Colmkill Street, commonly known as William Street at that time, here in Tullamore. There had been a flag day the previous day organised by the ladies in Commemoration to collect funds for the Irish volunteers. And during the match, there was a football match on, during that there was a suggestion of a scuffle between some of the Sinn Féin people and one of the pro-allies, pro-army, pro-participation in the war people. And that came to a head the following day when soldiers were leaving the railway station for the front, I suppose, and their women and children were seeing them off. And again, there were some tensions and name calling. And as a result of that evening, a demonstration was held outside of the rooms, which got out of hand. And as a result, the volunteers who were inside the room fired some shots at the crowd. The police decided then to take action, but not against the crowd, but against where the shots had been fired from, and they invaded the room, which is upstairs over on the first floor of the building there, and sought to disarm the Irish volunteers. Now there might be a background to that too. One of those volunteers was Padder Bracken, and he had fired a shot at the Geeshel cattle drive in 1914, where Inspector Crane was also in charge. It's my own view that when Crane saw Bracken, that was red rag to a bull type thing, and he immediately announced an instruction to his constables to disarm. And of course, the volunteers resisted. Weapons were extremely important to have and quite scarce, and as a result, they did not want to lose them. In any case, 3 or 4 people were arrested that evening, and 9 more, I think, later that week. 2 escaped, and those 2, Padder Bracken and Seamus O'Brennan, went on to participate in the 1916 Rising in Dublin. So that in that way, the incident, if you like, links the attempt to disarm, the participation of 2 of the people in 1916 itself. These are the links that provided the opportunity for people to consider it to be the first shot.
On this day 100 years ago, the GPO, the roof had fallen in, the ashes were smouldering on the floor, there was nobody in the building. And I think it just strikes me that we're here. We don't know the future, nor did they know the future, but their sacrifice ultimately was what set in train a series of events which created an independent state in Ireland. I think it is important, and it's a credit to Offaly County Council, that they put money into this documentary. And I think what makes it more important than anything else is that there is this notion that 1916 was a Dublin rebellion. But that's profoundly untrue. The people who fought in that city were drawn from every county in Ireland. And I think that should be remembered in any time that anybody refers to it as the Dublin Rising, which it most certainly was not. I hope you enjoy the film.
I also went to the Fateful Rising in Burr Theatre, and it was for Eamon Wolfen and Padder Bracken. It was a marvellous piece of film. Visually it was very good impact. I thought they used it very well, but going from black and white to colour as well, to give an impression of just the bare bones of a story, and then as they told the story a little more depth, they brought the colour up, and it meant it was more interesting to a broader audience as well.
The inspiration really for Fateful Rising as a film documentary really started 2 years prior to that, when Miriam Smith read my first book, which is my first effort of a biography of my dad. And then when Offaly Centenary Committee decided how will they celebrate the centenary in Tullamore and in Offaly, Gary Hocker and Miriam of Head of Cameron Burr, they said that the draft of the book already done was all based on my dad's life. And that's how it all happened. They then said, right, we'll merge two major people, both officers, both who come from across the water, both who are in the RB, both who are close links to Padraig Pearse, and they're both Offaly men.
Once I get the script and talk about approach with the client, I produce what I call thumbnails. It's like a master plan, a very rough, small drawing that will show as close as possible exactly what the artwork will look like. Once that's been approved, then I'll go to a finished pencil, and then once that's signed off, I'll go straight to finished art. Everything is hand-drawn on paper. I use a dip pen, which is like 1,000-year-old technology, a bottle of ink, a metal pen, dip, scratch, dip, scratch. Then I colour everything digitally. I scan it myself at home. I have a high-quality A3 scanner. I scan the artwork at a very high resolution, import it into Photoshop, and colour it all digitally then. Producing this kind of artwork is long hours by yourself, researching, drawing, analysing, tweaking, improving. It's a very solitary process, so when I actually get the chance to see it in an exhibition setting, and most of all, when I see people looking at the work and reacting to it, then it brings a whole different dimension to it. It's great to see.
I'm Patricia Hurl, an artist living in the Midlands, and we're here today with all my friends to recreate a painting from the National Gallery. It's Military Manoeuvres, done by Richard Moynihan in 1891. And I'm from Dublin, and I went to Clarendon Street School and would have gone into the National Gallery after school, and fell in love with that painting. And it's been in my mind for many a year. I'm coming to live in the Midlands and seeing Banagher, and I just really felt Banagher was the best place to put on this. My dad was from Derry, and he was born in 1894, believe it or not. And I'm still standing here, my dad. And he fought in the Northern Brigade of the old IRA, and was in imprisoned in the Curragh camp in 1921. So I wasn't brought up hearing those stories at all. It was only as I grew up and he started appearing in books, his name appeared in books. So he never spoke about it. So I'm delighted to be doing something this year, not necessarily because of my dad at all. It's because of me and because of all of these that are so lucky to live in Banagher. It's such a beautiful town. Yeah, we met first towards the end of the school term. The teachers were very good, and they've all taken a character now. This is going to continue, and we're going to have a celebration with an exhibition in Damer House Gallery, and they all have their story about who they are, where they're from, what kind of a house they lived in, how many children were in their families. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
I was commissioned by Offaly County Council for this centenary year to do a visual portrait of Offaly as it is now. A book of photographs, and it's showing life in Offaly today. So you could say 100 years on from the centenary year, what is life like in Offaly today? And then, you know, in 100 years' time, we'll look back on that and say, we'll see, you know, what it was like then. So it's photographing the people, the landscape, the places. So it's just all sort of ordinary life in Offaly today. And then I also, you know, photograph, say, in terms of the bog, like the wind farms now, and maybe in 30 years' time they'll be gone, who knows. And also then just try to capture a little bit of the diversity of the people that have moved to Offaly, you know. So I went to Educate Together School on Proclamation Day, and the children were signing the proclamation, and you could see there all the different diversity. There was people from all over the world had moved to Offaly. So, I think that's been a big change, certainly in 100 years, and we'll probably see, more of that.
Fuair an pac ólis seo ó Comhairle Gundaí Offaly agus tá sé an úsáideach ar fad. Bhain mar aláin tarbhra as an pac seo agus bhí aláin ólis sa feach seo agus bhain mar úsáid den ólis sin faoi na daoine ón cheantar seo, ón chundas seo ó páirt san éirí amach. Go mór daoine mar Éimeann Ó Bracán agus Éimeann Bulfin agus Seamus O'Callagh, daoine mar sin. Tá ólis faoi na héal tar éis an éirí amach, faoi na rudaí a tharla ribh an éirí amach í dul mhór, an a phré a tharla í dul mhór. Bhí an pac seo an úsáideach do na bhúnseoirí a bhí ag iarraidh múna faoi éirí amach na cásca. Mar chuirmid an bhéim ar cad a tharla sa counter seo agus na daoine a thug páirt sa an éirí amach sa ón counter seo. Agus bhí seansa going leis an pac seo ólis a thuirt don na leanaí, don na fáistí faoi na daoine ón dul mhór agus ón rahan agus áiteanna eile timpeall na háite a bhí páirteach san éirí amach. Nuair a bhí mé ag lorg slí chun múna faoin éirí amach, gus málam drama agus scríb mé drama beag a triumph of all sorts bunathe ar éirí amach na cásca, agus bhí gach dalta í ranga 5 agus ranga 6 páirteach sa drama sin. Chuirmid ar siúl an drama an nullag seo chaite agus rís ag an cásc freisin, agus chuirmir ar siúl í leabharlann í dul mhór agus cúpla áiteanna eile freisin. So bhí muid ar toras leis an drama, agus bhain na daltaí a lán taitneamh as an drama.
It's the 30th of October 2016 and we're standing amidst the ruins of Clonmacnoise, one of the most beautiful, serene, peaceful places in this country of ours. We're here for a special reason, to remember 3 1916 men whose mortal remains lie here. They're James Kenny, Kieran Kenny and Paddy MacDonald. Fought in Dublin in 1916, they served time of imprisonment and made sacrifices that we today enjoy the benefits and the fruits of the Republic that they sought to achieve. Their relations, the friends of their families, their neighbours and the community of West Offaly have gathered to remember them. 50 years ago, on the 24th of April 1966, a commemoration took place at which a commemorative plaque was unveiled by Mr. Alf Murray, President of the GAA. I was 50 years younger then, but I managed to take a series of photographs which today are almost the only record of that event. It's the value of having a camera and not being afraid to use it. You are recording history, even though at the time you may not think so.
Well, today we're having a commemoration for 1916 combined with a Remembrance Day for Dr. Dial, who was a doctor here for over 40 years. At 2 o'clock we have a church ceremony. We then proceed to the monument to Dr. Dial. for a wreath laying and the reading of the Proclamation, the national anthem and raising of the flag. We're delighted to have Dr. Dial's family to join us for the wreath laying and for the reading of the Proclamation. When that's over, we go down here to the hall where people can view memorabilia for the era of 1916, and we'll also have a program with the children depicting things from 1916.
My father, who when he was a medical student in Dublin, he joined the Irish Republican Brotherhood, and then he was involved in the 1916 Rising. He was under Con Colbert in the Marrowbone Lane distillery.
Today I played the part of Dr. P.J. Doyle in the first of the Offaly commemorations in Shinrone. I fought in 1916 and I was fighting at Jemson's Distillery, Marrowbone Lane. I was there about 6 days before we were given the order to surrender by Padraig Pearse.
When the Rising finished, he was imprisoned in Knutsford Prison and in Frongach in North Wales.
In Knutsford Prison it wasn't very good, but in Frongach we had a lot of liberty and we could buy a whole lot of stuff from the shop there, and we set up our own Croke Park where we played hurling. I got released in June 1917, and when we came back to Dublin we were treated with a hero's welcome, because everyone thought when we were being, at first they thought that we were a whole load of thugs, and then after the executions they thought we were brilliant.
When he was released, he went back to finish his medical studies in UCD, and he qualified in 1918. And then in 1920, he was appointed dispensary doctor to Shinrone and Moneygall.
I moved here to Shinrone in 1920 and I married my wife in 1920, and we raised a family here.
At that time, as a family doctor, it was 7 days a week, very busy.
I treat the people of Shinrone and Moneygall, and when I go to some people's houses, we've great crack.
I was very popular. He was, of course, he was involved in politics. He was appointed a senator under the new constitution in 1937.
Oh, I'm very proud of being a Shinrone and Forbad man. And my brother John M was a poet, and he wrote the song The Green Fields Round Forbad.
He was a very patriotic man, yeah.
When I look back at my life, I feel very proud of being part of the 1916 Rising and the fight for freedom.
I dreamed a dream in time gone by, when hope was high and life worth living. I dreamed that love would never die. I dreamed that God would be forgiving. Then I was young and unafraid, when dreams were made and used and wasted. There was no ransom.
I would particularly like to thank Offaly County Council for allowing me to organise this exhibition when in 2015 there was a call for ideas what to do about 2016 to commemorate 1916, I put in the idea of this family show. We have 8 living artists here among the artists, and 3 of our family have passed on. One, Mary Wolfen, many, many years ago. To say that I am proud of my father, excuse me, goes without saying. Well, our whole family is immensely proud of him and the work that he did. I just give you one instance. You know that the rising was cancelled by O'Neill on Sunday, but Pearse called the rising for Monday, and he sent a handwritten note to my father, which we still have, to muster the Rathfarnham company. And again, when my father mustered the company down at Rathfarnham Church, MacNeil was again there and said, if you take those men into Dublin, they will die and you will die. And his answer was, we cannot let Pearse down.
I'm proud to be Irish. I'm proud of what my grandfather did. I'm proud of the courage that those young men showed on that day. I was trying to put into a visual painting, sculpture, the feelings of 1916, and first I was really caught up on the feeling of victory. We raised our own flag for the first time in 800 years. So I had this very victorious man holding out the Irish Republic. But as I read my grandfather's account of the day and the fear and the struggle, and he was up on the roof for days, and they knew if they weren't actually killed on the day by a stray bullet, they were going to be executed. This was all sinking in, so I changed my very victorious, we have won the day, to a bit more, okay lads, our last stand, we'll raise the flag for Ireland. These guys knew they were going to sacrifice their lives, most likely, and they were proud to do it. So I wanted to get a bit more pride into their face and satisfaction. Okay, so the next stage was to build a model, starting with a support wire called armature wire inside. Then I'll dress the model, and then the work really starts. You gotta take a mold and you gotta reproduce this exactly in wax. Then you have to cover the wax in ceramic. This all happens in the foundry, very, very skilled process. And melt out the wax and pour in molten bronze. It's got to be 1200 degrees, so it pours like lava. Then let it cool and break off the ceramic mold. Finally, we have something to look at, to remember my grandfather by.
We ask Minister Gustavo Robric from Argentina to unveil the plaque.
His story has been kept quiet for so long. We didn't speak of it at home. He never spoke of the rising himself. My father never really spoke about it. He spent his life kind of building up Irish identity and pride in Ireland, working towards those goals. And I'm delighted in my small way to use my gift to be able to commemorate what he did. I went to the church in Tullamore for the concert on March the 20th. There was a lot of local artists who played in the concert. It included everybody as far as I could see. There were no boundaries. I had people from my own hometown. Mundy was playing there.
I have to say, this is a career high for me to be accompanied by the great Donald Lunny here. I'm a big, big fan. And to also find out you're from Offaly as well. That's amazing. I'm going to do a song called Easy and Slow. It was down Christchurch that I first met with Annie, a sweet little girl, and she not a bit shy. She told me her father, who came from Dungannon, he'd take her back home in the sweet by and by.
I was born in Tullamore and lived here the first 5 years of my life. I have really happy memories of that time. They remained clear of the rest of my life. They didn't become, if you like, sort of fudged in with all the other childhood memories that I have. So I really have affectionate memories of Tullamore as a tiny child, and it remains a special place in my heart.
Sing along. And what's it to any man, whether or no, whether I'm easy or whether I'm true. And as she lifted her petticoats, easy and slow, and I tied up me sleeves for to buckle her shoe. I tied up me sleeves for to buckle her shoe. Thank you.
Oh, Grace, just hold me in your arms and let this moment linger. They'll take me out at dawn and I will die. With all my love, I'll place this wedding ring upon your finger. Ah, there won't be time to share our love, for we must say goodbye. Now I know it's hard for you, my love, to ever understand the love I bear for these brave men, my love for this dear land. But when Porrick called me to his side down in the GPO, I had to leave my own sick bed.
It was the County Council who organised the concert that night, and the atmosphere just spread out and out across the town the nearer it came, and everybody came, and I think everybody was included, and yeah, really they deserve great credit for it.
I have spent it in good company, and all the harm that e'er I did, alas, it was to none but me. And all I've done for want of wit to memory now I can't